This one is a bombshell. Doge is going after US aid and the mainstream media is quaking in their boots for what it's exposing. And the likes of Politico and CBS News are now straight in the firing line of Donald Trump. He didn't mince words, writing on Truth Social, and I quote, "Looks like billions of dollars have been stolen at USAID and other agencies. Much of it is going to the fake news media as payoff for creating good stories about the Democrats. The left-wing rag known as Politico seems to have received $8 million. Did the New York Times receive money? Who else did? This could be the biggest scandal of them all, perhaps the biggest in history. The Democrats can't hide from this one. Too big, too dirty." Now, nearly 4 months after Donald Trump filed a lawsuit against CBS for alleged partisan and unlawful acts of election and voter interference through malicious, deceptive, and substantial news distortion to attempt to tip the scales in favor of the Democratic Party, end quote, the FCC's forced the network to release the full unedited interview with Kamala Harris, even though a lot of people had caught on to the editing done to make Kamala sound more sensible and coherent. By the way, subscribe to the channel for more hard-hitting truths in the mainstream media that they won't tell you, and watch how CBS edited Kamala's answers on the Middle East war.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
You see now why CBS News just didn't want to release the unedited transcript for this interview in full for months until it was forced by the FCC? That's because before the election, the network was walking an extremely thin line with accusations of outright election interference and a $10 billion lawsuit from Donald Trump. Writing on Truth Social, the president said, quote, "CBS in 60 Minutes defrauded the public by doing something which has never, to this extent, been seen before. They 100% removed Kamala's horrible election, changing answers to questions and replaced them with completely different and far better answers." Taken from another part of the interview, this was election-changing stuff, election interference, and quite simply, election fraud at a level never seen before, end quote. Donald Trump is now called on the network to lose its license, which is why CBS is scrambling right now for access to the president and trying to negotiate an early settlement before the lawsuit turns into a court trial. And if you're one of the millions of Americans that now understands how consequential the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop scandal was for the 2020 election, you realize how media manipulation can be one of the most effective tools to influence voters before a vital election. Now, even former Bernie supporting Democrats like Joe Rogan have woken up to the fact of how deep the rot really runs when he calls out the party this week for gaslighting the American people over the USAID expose.
It's amazing to watch all these left-wing people suddenly. Bernie Sanders making a post about how Donald Trump is trying to silence independent media was the wildest gaslighting I think I've ever seen from a politician. Independent media? You mean CBS? You mean CBS that edited that Kamala Harris interview to make it look like she had a really good point?
100%. And then I don't know if you caught Alex Soros reposting this claim that basically you have an unelected cabal wielding power. I mean, that's
just, you.
Yeah,
that's you, Alex. That's your dad. This is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very strange historical moment.
Also, it's like you haven't addressed any of the exposed corruption. All you're talking about is the horrors of dismantling this amazing organization. What about all that they've uncovered? There's not even a counter argument. Like, no, we need to fund gender fluid dance in Turkey. like, what are you talking about? We need $200 million for Starbucks Keurig cups. What?
And remember, if the Democrat Party lost Joe Rogan, it has already lost a lot of the centrist and center-left crowd. Even in this past election cycle, the fact that places like the Media Research Center exposed the massive slant in media coverage bias means whatever trust was left in the establishment, Democrats or their media mouthpieces have finally eroded away. A study from MRC about CBS, NBC, and ABC revealed these networks gave 78% positive coverage to Kamala Harris, while 85% of coverage of Donald Trump was negative, and given what Doge is exposing, It's hard to believe that all of this was an accident. Senator Ron Paul remarked, quote, "A look behind the curtain has revealed a horrific truth. Nearly the entire mainstream media worldwide has been funded by the U.S. government under the U.S. aid, from the BBC to the New York Times and Politico. At this point, it might be easier to find out who U.S. aid has not funded in the media sphere. And if you look at a clip like this from the full unedited Kamala Harris interview with 60 Minutes, you realize just how incoherently the former vice president gave word salad answers to a question as unimportant as Ukraine, punctured by awkward pauses and abrupt conclusions to answers."
Would you meet with President Vladimir Putin to negotiate a solution to the war in Ukraine?
Not bilaterally without Ukraine, no. Ukraine must have a say in the future of Ukraine.
How about, as president, would you support the effort to expand NATO to include Ukraine?
Those are all issues that we will deal with if and when it arrives at that point. Right now, we are supporting Ukraine's ability to defend itself against Russia's unprovoked aggression.
No wonder it took 4 months to have this released, but CBS nor its parent company Paramount are out of the woods just yet, because the FCC under Donald Trump is likely going to spring into action with every new revelation that we see coming from DOJ about US aid payments to television networks. Meanwhile, all that most of the Democratic Party has to say in response, well, it's to frame this as some sort of an attack on the free press by a supposedly authoritarian Donald Trump. That's what we saw just this week when many major Democratic leaders like Maxine Waters and Cory Booker attended a rally to denounce Elon Musk's supposed incursion into the federal government, but they were super careful not to touch the deeper subject about payments to media companies, so they couldn't be asked questions they know they can't answer.
We are going to fight this legally in every way we can. We will fight their violation of civil service laws. We will fight their violation of civil rights laws. We will fight their violations of separation of powers. We will fight their violations of our Constitution of the United States of America. We will not shut up. We will stand up. We will speak up. We will rise up. It is time, as the African spiritual says, for us to lift every voice in condemnation of what's going on.
I have to say, it's truly a sight to see the placards behind Cory with Democrat leaders literally defending American taxpayer money being funneled overseas to God knows where, and when they wonder why the middle and working class is abandoning them in droves. But let me know in the comments how you process all of this, because this is just the beginning of a lot more buried facts that will be coming out in the next few months and years.